All right, our good friend Coach Panda back on the
What's
show.
up?
How are
What's
you?
up? I'm good. How are you feeling?
I think like most people, we're dealing with this quarantine. I'm anxious to hear what it's going on in New Jersey, and I'm anxious to hear what you have to say, someone with a ton of experience, not only in this world. I mean, you're old, right?
Yeah,
So, but are you 50 now?
soon, very soon.
When's your 50th birthday?
November.
I was thinking about that. Seminar staff is getting old.
Some of us, yeah.
Because when you started, you were in your late 30s.
Right?
You
Yeah.
were you were holding it together really well for 50.
Well, you say that, but you're not living inside this broken body.
All right. The exterior looks good. The exterior
Thanks.
looks good.
Yeah.
But also you are someone that's been involved in health and fitness for a very long time. So I want to talk to you about your thoughts. We've had we had OPT on, and OPT kind of gave his thoughts, and then he changed them a little bit when he talked to another podcast, and we heard about that. But I would like to hear your thoughts on what you think is going to happen. And again, this is just your thoughts. Keith is not, you know, we're not political. We're not, no agenda. Just your.
Right.
So, what's going on in New Jersey right now with this? And again, this is probably a couple of days after we've recorded, so things are constantly changing. But right now, May 20th, what's the state of the union in New Jersey?
Well, I mean, I only get the view from outside my window. I haven't really been out too far. But from what I can tell is that, we are in very close proximity to New York City. Most I mean, especially, my town is, a commuter town, if you will, right? A lot of people work in the city and live out here. So we have a population that's very close to the city, which is, as many will tell you, is probably the American epicenter, the north, at least on this, this side of the world, we have probably the most cases in New York. So there's a huge faction here that's very cautious and, wants to see the curve flatten and wants to do all we can to support our healthcare workers and the front lines and the people who are out there trying to keep things going. And then there's the other half of the population that's just pretty fed up and wants to get back to work. And there's people obviously in dire financial straits. Businesses are closing. I've seen businesses in New York and New Jersey been closing, and people selling off their stuff and unable to open their doors, and it's bad. It's bad for them, and the what I think is the worst part is that the feelings are pretty. There's a lot of animosity on both sides, right? Where you see a lot of people angry at the other side, and everybody's got a valid point, right? It's like, yeah, this is at least in an area which is as densely populated as the New York area, it is a major concern. This is not some kind of scam. It's really happening. We all, at least in these parts, all know somebody who's had the disease, has died from the disease. It's who's working in close contact with people in the hospitals.
Do you
Or
know? Do you know people that have had it?
Yeah.
Not just virtually, like that you may have seen regularly if life wasn't shut down.
Yeah.
From can you? Is it
Just I
people
mean,
we know?
yeah, well, no, but I don't know if any people we have in common, but no, some of my jujitsu buddies have caught it. Their wife caught it. They've been, were in and out of quarantine.
I have a question about that. So let me ask you about that. Speaking as someone that practices jujitsu as well. Well, let me ask you. Let me get this idea first. Where's your fear level on a 1 to 10? So 1 is Fern. I don't give a shit about this disease, right? I will fight it. And a 10 is someone that's like living in a bubble. Where do you fall on that as a 49-year-old with a wife with 2 kids, living very close to New York City?
I have a healthy respect for this thing. I think I'm not in tremendous fear, but I'm I'm cautious. I don't. My wife's pregnant. She's 6 months pregnant, and
Is Erin
I don't.
pregnant again?
Yeah,
I had
we're
no idea.
number 3 on the way.
Congrats.
It's been a
It's
long
not even.
quarantine, and there's got.
That's like day one of quarantine, Keith. You guys didn't. I didn't know that. You can't. Have you guys even really said anything about that on social media? I've not seen much.
A little bit. There was like a very small announcement, but I don't think people really like. I don't. It was kind of a covert announcement.
It's not as entertaining as Jet and June destroying the house, I think, and those are the
Right.
ones I tend to look out for longer.
Right.
A professional picture of you and your wife gets glanced over by me.
Sure, exactly. So, yeah. So in that respect, like it's a delicate situation, right? Like don't want to, me personally, like I'm not as worried about my own, my own getting it right. But with having 2 kids and a third on the way, I don't want to, don't want to be in that.
Especially right, especially while she's pregnant. Not
Right.
ideal. So.
Yeah.
What I was going to ask you then about jujitsu is, where's your stance there? Gyms aren't opening yet, but assuming jujitsu school's open, because I'm in the same boat, like, what do I do? It's one thing to go to a CrossFit or a standard gym where I don't need to touch anyone, any martial art really, with the exception of maybe like Tai Chi.
Right.
And it doesn't get more, germ spreading than jujitsu. So what's your stance on that? When would you go back to jujitsu?
Well, so like I said, my school has been, we have my professor has a good friend in Italy, Frederick Tisi, who has a jiu-jitsu school over there. And he was scheduled to come here and do a seminar right at the beginning of the whole lockdown. And Italy got locked down, and so he had to cancel the seminar. And so we knew like a little bit ahead of the curve what was happening in Italy, and we were just very aware of it, from a jiu-jitsu school standpoint, like, hey, school's down there and everything in Italy is shut down, and they're not even leaving the house. This thing is spreading, and people are talking about losing their schools. So my instructor got pretty a heads up pretty quickly and was like, okay, we're gonna have to lock down the school. We're gonna have to do X, Y, and Z. We're gonna have to start going online and doing classes. And so right from like Jump Street, we closed down the school as soon as they announced the lockdown, and we went right on to doing online stuff. And he's been like sitting there formulating a plan, like how we can get back into rolling. And our best bet right now is thinking about doing either sort of like one-on-one, like you have a dedicated jiu-jitsu life partner that you're gonna roll with, and you book like half hour or hour sessions there, and you go in when nobody else is there. Do a quick wipe down, you roll, do another quick wipe down, and you get out, and then the next pair comes in. And dividing the room, because there's got enough mat space, you can divide it into like 2 or 3 segments and have a different entrance. There's got a front door and a back door and 2 bathrooms. So it's laid out in a way that makes it accessible for that. So we have sort of the highest level of sort of risk aversion, and then we have sort of a middle ground where you kind of get in groups of like 4 and work together, and then potentially maybe something even slightly bigger, but it's probably going to be like one-on-one or like a group of 4 type of situation.
So what's it going to take for you though to do that? In other words, if one of your buddies reached out to you and was like, hey Keith, will you be my jiu-jitsu partner? Are you willing to?
Well, me personally, like I'm chomping at the bit. I would go in there and do that, just so I could drill and maybe shoot some more videos and do some live stuff. But like because I'm like higher risk because of Aaron, I'm not gonna do it. Just like,
well, that's kind of what I'm getting at, just to get an understanding there. And I think the whole not that it's a misconception, but what people that are not social distancing aren't realizing, it's not about you, it's about who are you interacting with, and you have to be smart. And having a wife that's 6 months pregnant, you need to be a little smarter than the average person.
Right. And my mom's 80 years old, and I need to go up there and like see her once in a while and drop off some stuff and get stuff from her. So it's like, I have to just be a little more cautious.
So is there any time frame yet for gyms to reopen in New Jersey?
I don't know. They made some announcement, but I don't know if there's any hard date. I haven't heard exactly. And I'm also sort of just, once I realized, because we just started having that conversation like last week or so about having these pairings in small groups, and I was actually having that conversation with one of my friends that reached out, and they were like, "Oh, well, your wife's pregnant. Yeah, we can't do this. You should put it out of your mind." And I was like, "Shit, yeah, I should put that out of my mind." So I just haven't like thought about it really, because yeah.
So what I really wanted to dive deep into though is, as someone that's been involved in fitness for as long as you have, what impact long term do you think this is going to have? Obviously, the short term effect, in my opinion, and I want to hear yours, is people are realizing I can do a lot more at home and outside and in different places than I realized, and B, from the CrossFit perspective, I don't need to be doing as much as I was. Turns out 20 minutes a day of intensity, that's not including warming up, cooling down, is more than enough. I don't need 2 to 3 hours of competition. And turns out there's not only not regionals anymore, there's not sanctionals, and only 30 people are going to the games. So
Right.
what's your motivation? So where do you think the short-term effect is going to be, and then what do you think long-term, 5, 10, by the time your kids start going to gyms, what's that going to look like?
Well, I think you've already talked about the short term. We've already seen the short term effect. It's people are going to be training at home in their garages. All the suppliers are all out of dumbbells and
I know
gym equipment. Like, you can't get anything online these days.
I went on Rogue to try to get some stuff. It's only the shitty equipment that no one wants is on there, like assault bikes.
Those are even sold out, because a friend asked me about like getting a bike, and I pointed them at Rogue. They're like, "No, it's all sold out." I was like, "Oh, geez."
And what do you think long term? What's the impact on CrossFit and CrossFit affiliates?
I mean, I think short to midterm, it's not going to be great. I mean, I think the business model is going to change a little bit. I mean, people are going to get back into group training. I've already seen it like online, and people are like, people are already starting to talk about opening up their gyms and start running classes again. I think hopefully the smart move is that gyms will be a little bit more clean. Gyms will be a little bit more well managed. I think both in terms of how they run classes and how they intake people and the general customer experience, I think is going to be hopefully better by all this, because I think people will CrossFitters and CrossFit gyms have notoriously been very community focused and very client focused, but I think even more so now, the communities that band together in the boxes are going to be even more tight knit, and hopefully box owners will take even greater care to raise the comfort level and the enjoyment of people coming together in groups, because I think that's what's one, what people want, and two, it's going to be more necessary, because I think the ability to get new clients at this point is harder, right? Because there's a automatic, like, not only do I not want to do Fran and do that crazy CrossFit stuff, but I don't want to be in another room breathing and sweating with a bunch of people in close proximity. So the need to increase the client experience and to make it more welcoming and show people that this is a space for healthcare, not just like Fran love and stuff like that. So I think up generally sort of increase the product that we're delivering, in terms of not just like, oh, we're going to beat you down with burpees, but we're going to actually make this a real community-centric and health-centric place for people to come and congregate, where it's not about like, it's not just about breathing on each other and getting germs. It's actually, no, we're going to increase your health care. We're going to increase your level of fitness, increase your immunity, increase your community and ability to bond together in ways that are hopefully safe and beneficial.
And I agree with all of that. And I hope that, and speaking to Fern and Todd the other day, they've had a lot of interest in people coming back. So I think there's the people like us who are thinking, hey, it's going to be slow and people are going to be smart and safe, which I believe in. But then there's also the people that are like, F this, I need to get out of the house and I need to do something. I hope for a lot of people this was a wake up call. There's one dude that walks in the same kind of loop that I do, and I can tell that he's lost weight over the last 2 months. So it's really good to see. It's been hard for me to speak about this from the affiliate perspective because I no longer own one. And when it
Right.
first all happened, I was very much, hey, boxes need to close down. And obviously I still think there's an importance to flattening the curve. And regardless of what you believe, people were getting sick. Something needed to happen. 2.5 months later, I'm not sure how my feelings would have changed if I owned a box. You're in the same situation. You don't own a box any longer. What would you're speculating, but how do you think you would have handled it as an affiliate owner?
I don't know. I think like just most people, I would have scrambled to do a lot more stuff online, a lot more personal, development, one-on-one development. I'm sure a lot of affiliates have done that, just reached out to their members and really offered more, the nutritional counseling and more lifestyle and fitness stuff and, Zoom classes and one-on-one services and like online privates and things like that to, I think, also like building like that, the community aspect too. I'm sure a lot of affiliates have done this. I don't know offhand, but like my Jujitsu school, a handful of us have like a little like book club. So every couple of weeks we like have a little Zoom call and we all, none of us have either read the book or we've just watched the movie.
What are some of the books you did for your book club?
Fight Club. We did.
Oh, classic. I mean, the movie's great, but the book is so much better.
Right. We did Fight Club. We did. There's the book by Norman Mailer called The Fight, Muhammad Ali and George Foreman and Zaire.
Oh yeah, there's a book on that.
Yeah.
I have to check that out.
Yeah, and then we were all talking movies, so we just switched to movies and we did Pulp Fiction and Big Lebowski.
Classics. If you want a really good movie, I just watched it last night for the first time. Snatch.
Oh, with Brad Pitt?
Yeah, because it's all about a fighter in there.
Yeah.
A good movie for your movie club.
That's true. I haven't watched that in ages, but yeah, that would be a fun one to bring back.
So like we said, it's really hard. I was probably a little too hard on Fern in that, like, giving him my opinion, but it's hard. The more I thought about it, I was like, wow, it's pretty crazy that the government just came in and shut down small businesses. It's like, and it's easier for me on the outside, not owning one currently, to be like, this is the great call and it's the right decision, but who knows? Yeah. So, and we won't know for a little bit of time. Something else I want to talk to you about, you are doing a really good job at posting home workouts. You're one of the few people that has been, I'm doing a good job. I like that, Keith. You're one of the few people that have been consistent and you're smart about it. About 6 weeks ago, I was like, people are going to hurt themselves because all they're doing are burpees and push-ups.
Right.
And you've been really good, including throwing up things like a 5K. So 2 questions. One, what kind of thought process goes into someone like you with so much experience? You have your level 4 credential, right?
Yeah. It might expire soon.
Well, I just revalidated mine. Beth Ray was emailing me. She was on top of it. But someone with a level 4, someone who has so much experience, what kind of thought do you put into your workouts? And secondly, how do you come up with the names?
Oh, yeah, it's a little haphazard. So the thought goes into like classic CrossFit programming, but with like limited resources in terms of equipment. I think mostly in terms of like dumbbells and kettlebells and stuff people might have in their, houses and apartments. Some occasional box jumps and, pull-ups or ring rows type of things that I think most people can hack together something to do. And I keep them short and intense. It's usually couplets and triplets. Occasionally like a longer piece and a chipper or something like that. And I sort of go by feel. I'm like, man, I hit a lot of abs for the last couple of days, maybe work on something else, or I hit a lot of lower body, maybe focus more on some upper body stuff. But yeah, just the classic programming, short, high intensity, try to keep it varied in terms of the loads and the reps. Well, not really loads. Usually let people sort of pick the loads and sort of give like a range, like, oh, if you're going to go a little heavier with this, maybe cut the reps. And if you're going to go a little lighter, maybe up the reps. Because, some people just have like, a 25-pound
dumbbell.
Right. So you gotta modify it a little bit for that.
And what about the names? Your names have been entertaining. One of the more recent, Spieler's mom, I think there was.
Yeah. Well, so like that was a workout. I just was scrolling through Instagram and I saw Spiel put up a little workout that, a little finisher that he did, just some basic holds. But I just remember like a few times I've hung out with Spieler and worked with Chris. It was actually usually with Chris and Eric O'Connor. Those two guys run Park City CrossFit. And whenever those two guys are together, they're just constantly, joking with each other and, telling mom jokes and stuff like that. So I just had a flashback to that. And I was just like, oh, I'm just going to, call this one Spieler's mom.
Has it been a struggle for you at all with your nutrition? A lot of people are locked up and, maybe they have 2 kids, maybe they have a pregnant wife like you. I mean, you have a hard thing going on right now trying to eat clean. I'm sure your wife's craving pickles and the kids, want chicken nuggets. How challenging has nutrition been to you during this time?
Well, I mean, let's be honest. I'm no more better at it now than I ever was.
You have your spurts. You have really good spurts where you're dialed in, but then you have times where you're a little loose.
Yeah, and it's kind of tracked the same way over the quarantine. But the good news about the quarantine is I'm like cooking like 90% of the meals, so I have a lot more control over that. So I don't generally dive into like fast food or junk food or anything too crazy. But I've been in and out of ketosis a couple times during the quarantine. I just like shut things down for like a week. I just like cut out all the sugar, all the bread and all the starches and stuff and all the dense carbs, and just like ate like meat and vegetables for like a week or so at a time, sort of cleaned up. And then of course, like, it's Friday night and then it's like, well, let's just order a pizza for the kids. And then suddenly I'm eating pizza. So it's ebbed and flowed a little bit. And but I have cut out the alcohol this quarantine.
Alcohol?
Yeah. The first month I was probably, by the end of the first month, I was probably drinking every day.
So you didn't cut out alcohol, you ran out of alcohol.
I ran out of alcohol. But yeah, like the first month, like, it starts with like, oh, I'm going to, get a little something and then start drinking. And then you realize I'm not going anywhere. So you start drinking earlier in the day.
That's exactly what I was doing with two things, with alcohol and with marijuana. Because I'm in Colorado right now. I'm like, I had to create some rules where I'm like, no, you don't get to touch anything till 5. Right. Fridays a little bit earlier, weekends, whatever you want. But it was like, I was like buzzing through bottles of Patron. I was like, I gotta control this.
Yeah, so like I was like, I can't like keep eating this way and drinking this way, and like, so I'm just like, I cut out the alcohol, so I haven't like touched any alcohol in I think probably 2 months, right? Or what? How long we've been doing this thing? Almost 3 months.
Yeah, it's over 2 months now. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just easier too, because like every time I would drink, Erin would be like, I want a beer. I want a glass of wine.
And she can't.
She can't.
You're being a good husband.
So yeah, so I'm just like, well, she's not going to be drinking. I've just cut it out. It's easy because now there's no alcohol. I'm not drinking. So. Does
she cut out caffeine too?
She did, like when we had our first kid, and she really hasn't gone back.
So it's not something that she has to think about for 9 months.
Right. Yeah. So she cut out caffeine, switched over to like decaf coffee when she was pregnant with Jet, and really has been mostly a decaf person since then.
And this is something that's impacting your entire family, because Erin, does a lot for theater and the Broadway type community, and that's shut down right now as well. So you guys and then she also does like some reading, right, for books, like
Well,
audiobooks?
she's pretty much, supporting me right now because the seminars have dried up, right? I teach some Zoom classes and I get a little bit of money from that, but like, the CrossFit, so most of my business is dried up, and she's been recording audiobooks, so she still has income from that. She just wrote her first novel, so
Really?
that's yeah. So
Fiction?
she just yeah.
What's that about? What's the book about? Is it about you?
No, it's well. So she's like most of her audio book stuff has been narrating romance novels and stuff. So after like 350, like reading 350 romance novels, she was like, I'm just gonna write some, write my own.
Yeah.
So it's like a romantic comedy. She just like emailed it to me so I can proofread it.
Well, I'd love to check it out, and I'd love to, also tell our audience about it when it's ready. So certainly
Yeah.
keep me posted.
Yeah, and she had a play. She's written a ton of plays, and one of them she just had recorded in audio format because she knows a bunch of other audio narrators. So she had a bunch of people record one of her plays as like an audio version of her play. So that's going up, going to go online probably pretty soon. So I'll keep you posted on that as well.
Will do. So, yeah, speaking of seminar staff, I know their seminars are starting to reopen.
Yeah.
So
Slowly.
slowly, and I think only in obviously states that are allowing it. So Virginia and Florida, speaking to Fern and Todd,
Yeah.
what's going to
Utah.
be what's that?
And one in Utah.
One in Utah. What's going to be your stance there as far as when will you work again? We talked about Jiu-Jitsu. Seminar staff, obviously a little different. You don't have to roll around with people, but there's definitely close quarters and touching going on.
I think like I'd be more comfortable, and also I'm hungry to work for a variety of reasons, financial and professional and emotional and all of that. But I think if it's relatively local, like I can drive to it, and I like from what I've seen, like most of the seminars are less densely populated now, and
Yeah, for sure.
and we're maintaining some social distancing, like in terms of keeping some distance between. I don't know how we run groups and workouts in those situations, but I'd be kind of eager to do another seminar. I'm not sure. Like I'm less eager to get on an airplane or on like a train, but definitely like to drive somewhere and get into a situation where I can coach again would be great.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's none in Colorado right now, and I think it seems to me like they're only staffing local people for that reason to prevent us from flying.
Right.
I think, I'd be okay showing up and teaching a seminar. I don't want to fly to one.
Sure.
So you're approaching 50. Which how does
also
that?
puts me in a high risk group, surprisingly enough.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting, you're old. I think you're very healthy, so that's a good thing. But how does that change your career? We both, in other words, when we started this fitness thing, it was like a young man and woman's game.
Right.
Now I'll be 42 in a couple of weeks. You'll be 50 in a couple of months. What does that mean for us? I mean, you don't see a lot of I remember when I was a kid, the old trainer was like the weirdo. Like he was wearing a fanny pack,
Well, I got one of those. Yeah.
He was wearing, spandex, and turns out I do all of those things now. So, so is that evolving? Is it changing? Are we going to have to find a different career? Can fitness be something you do until retirement? Are you going to work seminars when you're 64, collecting Social Security? What do you have you thought about any of this?
I have, and there's good arguments on both sides of it. I mean, look at Coach B. I mean, Coach Bergner is still out there kicking butt, and he's a self-proclaimed old geezer, and he still rolls into seminars and kicks a whole lot of ass and throws down, and he's so there is at least a model for us guys getting old and still going out there and doing seminars and kicking butt. So there's that. But it definitely, when you start having a family and other things, it's like the appeal of being on the road all the time and running around on the weekends starts to lose some of its luster. I think definitely, if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and I think we are, and I think, especially the CrossFit training staff is decidedly good at that, is like we're all developing and growing as athletes and humans and coaches. So I think there's, still going to be good stuff, for us to do, right? Even though like physically I might not be able to, hang as well with the young bucks, I still have a, good eye for coaching. And I think, we're still gaining in intelligence and, and sophistication to some degree. So I think there's still a place for us as we get older, but maybe it's more in terms of like, writing and, doing books and other trainings and other things like that.
Well, I was going to say, it's like when you first, started leaving for seminars and you had to leave Erin, it's like, okay, you're by yourself. Now you have to take care of one kid, two, three. She's like, this has become a job for me now. She's got,
exactly.
when you guys have a third kid and you disappear for the weekend, I don't think you show up again. And Erin's like, oh, we missed you. It's like, take these kids, right? Help. So I agree with you. I think we've seen the evolution, and CrossFit is proving it's not just a young man's game. And I think for a lot of people, when they show up to seminars, they can appreciate the elder, statespeople like us. And even those that when we're extremely young, the Austins, the James, they're all approaching, they're all in their 30s now, mid 30s, a couple of them. So it's like any career, we're seeing that, and we'll get the young bucks that roll in, and we have to, knock them down a peg or two. So,
but I think there's something to be said for that. I mean, at the last summit, like in, what was it, October, we had the summit. I was at like 250 something seminars.
Yeah.
So I was like, right. So I was like, if I work every weekend for a year, I could like push like 300. But like that's clearly not happening.
Yeah,
at this rate.
That's how I looked at it too. I was like, okay, I got to work 2 more years to hit 300, and then it was like, okay, that's way off now. Way
exactly.
off
so
now.
The math doesn't work out at all anymore. So like, I don't know if I'm going to make the 300 club at this point.
I think hopefully we'll get back to normalcy, and not only will you make 300, but eventually 400 and 500, like Chuck Carswell. I mean, impressive that he's been on the road so much. Did you watch the last few fights that were on UFC?
No. I just seen clips, but I haven't watched the whole fights.
I was going to ask you about those. But anything else you got going on?
Did you see like Tyson and Holyfield are going to have a rematch?
Is that official now?
I don't know. I just seen a poster for it. Like I seen like posts going up on social media that Tyson Holyfield rematch in like Saudi Arabia or something.
I saw the clips of Tyson who looks
like in international waters, so they can like just fight to the death or something.
Yeah, those guys. I mean, at some point you've made enough money. You don't have to beat each other up at 50 years old. But hey, it's hard. It would be very hard for us to turn down $20 million too, I assume. I've yet to be offered that. So I was going to ask, anything else going on in your life that you'd like to share?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I've been, I've texted you, right, about like writing a book, and I've probably started, a half a dozen different books, and then like, and then put them aside and come up with a different idea and started something else. So there's a lot of stuff rattling around in this brain that I'm trying to get out onto a computer screen and onto some paper. But we'll see if that ever manifests. But
well, my advice still stands. Yeah. Just start.
Yeah. It's the starting part that I find okay. It's the finishing part that I find impossible.
Yeah, there's a little more in the middle. I see. I guess I need to figure out some better advice there than just start and finish. But right. Like most people will tell you when writing a book, just commit to a certain period of time or a certain number of words every day, and because you got some great stuff, and you obviously have the knowledge, expertise, and experience. And I have no doubt that if you put out a book, it would be well received. You just have to do it. This is the time. What are you going to come out of this quarantine with?
Exactly. That's what I say to myself every day.
I mean, you have to take care of 2 kids. You have to take care of a pregnant wife. So you have a little more work than the average person at home. But I think you need to come out of this with a book, Keith.
Yeah, but I've been surprisingly productive in this quarantine. I've gotten a lot of stuff done around the house. Right, I've gotten I'm not a handy person at all. Right, I grew up in an apartment in New York City, so like if something broke, there was a handyman that came up and fixed it. So like I've never had to the battles of home ownership have never been fought by me. So I'm slowly getting around to like fixing a bunch of stuff around the house and watching a bunch of YouTube videos and learning how to do stuff and taking tons of trips to Home Depot. So that's been. And I've cooked a whole mess of stuff.
I know. I love seeing your food. It's always impressive. You always have some good food. Most of the time, keto friendly. Not always, but
not always.
But it looks good. Well, anything else? Anything where people can check you out, support you, other than buying Aaron's book? Where can they find Keith Wittenstein?
Just check me out at Coach Panda on Instagram, or you can check out my blog, which is full of ramblings at forcedistancetime.com. And what else? Hopefully one of these days I'll get back on the mats and get my black belt. So
you must be close. I mean, you've been a brown belt for a long time.
Yeah, a few years now. And I was like, the goal was to get my black belt by 50. And I was like, man, home stretch this year. 2020 was going to be my year. And it's not happening.
That's my goal as well. I've got 8 years though, but I still have to get through my brown belt. But that is my goal. And that's probably the only thing I really miss right now, other than traveling a little bit, is training on the mats. And, there's some Zoom classes happening, but training jujitsu virtually is not the same as exercising virtually. So
no.
There's only so many times Roz will let me choke her. So those classes have not been as fun as the fitness classes, but it's always great to catch up with you, Keith. We appreciate you hopping on.
Man. You too. How's Thunderbro going?
Thunderbro's great. I mean, Dave. He's a little bit of a crazy person, but it's like anything. When you're a little crazy, with the intelligence comes a little bit of insanity.
I think Dave has become more Dave than even Dave could have ever imagined.
Yeah, Dave is like someone. If someone were trying to become a caricature of Dave, that's who Dave is now. But it's
amazing.
He's great. He's funny. He's smart. It's a fun business to be a part of. So I'm psyched about it. Well, let me let you go. Tend to the 2.5 kids you got going on, and a pregnant wife, and all that stuff. Thank you, Keith.
Thanks, brother. Good seeing you.
Thanks for listening to Best Hour of Their Day. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. How cool is that? There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, so it becomes super simple. Some of these episodes with Fern or Todd or myself chatting with one another, we've done right within the app itself. Anchor will make it easy to distribute your podcast to all platforms, Spotify, Apple, and many more. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make an awesome podcast in one place. All you have to do is download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Come on, who doesn't have Spotify at this point? And if you were unaware, Spotify now is offering podcasts. That's right. On Spotify, you can listen to all your favorite artists, but also podcasts in one place for free. Spotify has a huge catalog of podcasts on every topic, including the one you're listening to right now, Best Hour of Their Day. On Spotify, you can follow your favorite podcasts so you never miss an episode. Premium users can even download episodes to listen to offline wherever you are, something I always do before I hop on a plane. And you can even easily share what you're listening to with your friends. on Instagram and other social media platforms. Here's the deal. If you haven't done so already, be sure to download the Spotify app, search for Best Hour of Their Day on Spotify, or browse some other podcasts if you want. You can find them in your library tab. And also make sure to follow me so you never miss an episode of Best Hour of Their Day. Thanks again for listening to Best Hour of Their Day. If you haven't already, do us a favor, head over to the Apple Podcast app and leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback for either Fern or myself, hit us up, besthouroftheirday@gmail.com, or send us a DM over on Instagram at Best Hour of Their Day. Once again, we couldn't do this without the amazing community, and you are a part of it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting Best Hour of Their Day.